Jeff, Kelly, here again. Look at this log cabin, Jeff. You cannot tell me that this is not the grand buffet for termites.
It is the grand buffet. I mean, when you look at it and you realize what termites really do to a structure, this is definitely the grand buffet if I've ever seen one.
Well, if you were a termite, this would be your hot spot.
That's correct.
That's crazy. But what we do know is all termites are subterranean in Ohio.
That's right.
So if we did find evidence...
Normally speaking, what happens is on the inside, the owner will find evidence, and normally it'll be in between a wall, or they're doing some cleaning and they hit a baseboard, or whatever the case may be. And we can sort of take a look. You know, here we got a lot of log and you have a lot of wood.
Wow.
But the same thing applies. You do have walls that are wooded, so what would end up happening if in fact they were found inside is we like to treat a certain area from the area they're found. So if they're found in this wall, what we like to do is stay right above, because they are subterranean, so they work their way up the wall.
Gotcha.
So our goal is to punch some holes into that wall, and usually they're pinholes right above the baseboard edge.
Jeff, do we fill these holes after our treatment?
We do fill the holes.
Okay, cool.
That way you can paint or restain or do whatever you need to do, but then we inject that with the same product that we're going to put outside, but there's a foaming agent in it.
Oh wow. For inside?
That's correct.
Oh, that's great.
It foams up, it'll be there for the next 90 days, and once those termites get into that product, they take it back. It's like a bad virus and eliminates colonies.
So let's step back. If they found evidence, give me an idea of what they could find. Tubing?
You can find mud tubing. A lot of times this time of year, March, April, May, you'll find what they call exit holes. It'll be a small pinhole with mudding around it.
Got ya.
So the termites will use that to send out the reproducers, or to be kings and queens.
Sure.
And that's the ones that people mistaken as the ant.
The flying ant.
That's correct.
Right. So that's the key. We'll get to that in a second.
Yep.
So on this situation, if they did find evidence, we'd treat that bottom plate.
That's right. We treat this area.
Got ya.
And then we still have to do our standard by label on the outside of the structure.
Let's talk about the outside,
Yeah,
because this property is absolutely stunning. When I look at the decks, and I look at the elevated decks, and I look at the fact it was a poured, it looks like they're poured, that's the dinner bell.
No, that's what I mean. You're seeing the dinner right here.
That's right. So let's talk about where you think people would find evidence, like
Normally,
fast.
when we have problems in conducive areas for us in termites is front porch, back porch, interior garage wall.
Gotcha.
And the reason being is, normally speaking, you don't have a log structure like this. Most of the homes you have cement walls, foundation, garage attached.
Right.
They're pretty typical. This is a different situation and scenario, but what ends up happening is you create seams where you pour different foundations.
Gotcha.
And termites love seams because that's their access into the structure. Without having to excavate or make an entrance.
Right.
So on this structure, though, it's a little unique in the fact that your treatment is a little different, because you physically have to get up underneath this patio.
Let's show them.
So and this is where we'd send Weston.
Yeah, so Weston. So let me ask, this type of treatment, this would be a long pole?
They call them short rodding, where basically they crawl up underneath there, and we excavate right up on the structure itself. You pull off some of that dirt, and then you inject that soil with Termidor.
Right.
And the nice thing about that is, once they cover that dirt back up that they have excavated, when we dig it out like that, that product's here to stay. The only two ways you can get rid of that product is longevity, or you start excavating and building on to the structure.
Let me ask you, as soon as we put the Termidor down, when does the killing start?
Usually starts immediately, but within 90 days the population's gone.
Right, and we discussed what, up to 60,000 to 100,000 in a colony?
That's right. They can go up to a million strong.
Let's walk around this area, because I saw the poured.
Well, one of the other things, you know, when everybody always asks me about mulch.
Yes.
You know, hey, is a mulch attracting termites? Is it my cause of my problem? I don't know that it's the cause of the problem, but when you get mulch like this, at some point what it becomes is rotting wood on the surface.
Sure.
You know, this was probably cypress cypress mulch at one point,
Got
or the black mulch, whatever.
Black gold.
Yeah, it wore. Well, at some point it is to them.
Right.
So that mulch is rotting wood on the surface. So at that point, they do have a food source here other than the structure.
So that's another smorgasbord for them.
That's right.
It's a buffet of love.
And you know, does it draw them? Does it not draw them? It's tough to tell.
Right.
You know what really gets them there. But when they find rotting wood on the surface, it is a smorgasbord.
Right, there's the, I wanted to show this part because I was on a termite inspection this past week and I found tubes.
So basically we're treating up underneath all this deck area.
That's a good shot.
You definitely want to treat these pillars that are holding up this porch as well. They're stone pillars. You want to make sure you treat around those pillars because that's a direct access into that structure.
So what you're saying is they'll mud tube right through it and get to the honey gold
up to the joist.
To the wood. Right, so here's some of the seams that you were talking about that they love, the cracks, the crevices.
Yeah, normally speaking, you'll have a concrete slab here.
Right.
And when you do that, you create seams right down in here along the edge.
Gotcha.
Well, when you create that seam, that's their entrance to this wall.
Right.
Well, then it's a matter of what it takes to get up to the wood structure.
To the top, right.
So you never want wood to soil contact as well. And you'll start to see some of that in some of the I want to say this threshold here, you start to get some of that wood to soil really close.
Right.
Them are very conducive areas. So we're continually treating these areas and we're running a continuous barrier all along this structure.
Sure.
And we're going to do that all along the exterior of this foundation. We've already treated the interior. Now we're moving to treat the exterior of it. So you do have, now these have steel supports.
Right.
And you probably don't have as much of a problem and you probably got steel supports inside there.
Right.
So they're not going to consume that, but it's definitely a highway to the porch.
Yeah, they'll build a mud tube right on the outside of that puppy going straight up.
That's correct.
Right.
And then again, you know, you don't have the mulch over here, but you do have wood on the soil.
Sure.
At some point that wood is going to be rotting. Once that starts to rot, termites find it perfect scenario to live in.
It's like a deli.
That's correct. It is a deli. But you have another elevated porch. Now normally these are concreted porches, and we don't have to get under those.
Sure.
So there's no climbing up under there, digging trenches, things like that. On this one, unfortunately, you would have to get up underneath there and get that product on that foundation wall. And like I said, we're making a continuous barrier so everything is covered. So if there's any entrance or access, they've got to go through that product.
Here's a quick question for you, and I know we have Weston with us, and this would probably be a question that Weston would enjoy. Let's hypothetically say we didn't have access to this. Can we treat basement walls from the inside of the basement?
You can treat if they're block. You don't want to drill through a solid poured wall like this.
Cinder block is what you're saying.
That's right. I can treat the interior of the block, or I can, even if I'm in a crawl space and there's a garage attached, I can go through that block and treat that wall without having to drill down holes.
Gaia.
So yes, it can be done, or like you said, the other option on this, let's say this was sitting flat on top of the soil.
Right.
If it was, you would have to drill the hole straight through the wood deck, or he could remove a board close to the foundation so you could get your long rod in there.
You know, sometimes people ask us, can we remove pavers? Can we take that? And I've seen we have done it. Now, we're not carpenters, so I do know there are.
A lot of times if you remove a paver, it doesn't go back as easy as it came out. So you want to definitely take care of the pavers and let them know that, you know, when you're getting ready to do that service, that, hey, this may not go back the way we planned it to go back.
Absolutely.
You know?
And you know, this is a porch slab as well that
yeah, like I said, normally you got the slab butted up against the structure where you don't hear, and I think this is all crawlable, so they wouldn't have to replace or remove any boards. At that point, we could remove that board or not remove the board, crawl up underneath there and treat that edge.
It's also safe to say that if we have something going on that top deck, we'll be able to see where the mud tube's leading to it.
Normally speaking, yes.
Okay.
Now they have to return, termites have to return every 24 hours to disperse the cellulose that they're consuming.
Got ya.
So, and they do that because they've got to get rid of it and they've got to feed the young.
Sure.
The young don't have enzymes to break down wood. So they go out there and they feed it through what they call trophallaxis, which is a regurgitation of feces.
Sure.
So the adults feed on the structure, they take it back, distribute it.
Kids eat it.
That's where this product takes effect.
Let's talk about that. So the termidors, which you said.
That's correct.
Let's talk about that. Well, how do we guarantee that it's getting back to the colony, or how do we know?
Usually activity stops pretty quickly.
So my question to you, do they know that they're walking through it? And
well, that's just it. It's a non-repellent. So
wow.
They don't know the product's there. They continue to do their daily journey up to the house and back down to the nest.
Sure.
And when they're doing that, not only is it a fed poison, but it's also a contact poison. So
wow.
just them running through it
Sure.
Takes effect.
And they're pretty social too. So they're in that colony and everybody's loving and bumping and
That's
eating.
correct. Well,
That's
they're
awesome.
very social, and that's what makes this product so effective, because it does translocate and all the grooming and all the
Right.
feeding that goes on. They definitely move that product along.
Absolutely. You know, it's we have Weston out, so we'll kind of get into that a little bit later. But yeah, is there anything else that you think that we're forgetting about?
Well, we've got some of the mulch, we got the wood decks on this structure. You do have the concrete, you know. People always ask about the concrete.
Sure.
You do have your cistern here,
That's
or
a
not
good
your
question.
cistern, but your that is your what is it? That's your
Septic?
Yeah, that's your septic there.
Sure.
They have the
Yeah, let's.
They have the
is that
cisterns
important
out here.
to know in termite work?
It's very important to know. The
Okay.
well and the cistern location is very important. This product, it used to be the well had to be 100 feet deep, 100 feet away from a structure.
Wow.
Well, that basically eliminated a lot of structures to be treated with the liquid product.
Sure.
They still allotted you to do it, but there was a very rough way to do it. You had to excavate the dirt, treat the dirt, put the dirt back on top of it,
Right.
not just inject it.
Gaia.
So now it has to be 25 feet deep,
Oh,
because what happens, this product doesn't move. Once it adheres to soil, becomes a part of the soil, and it's there to stay. So it has to be 25 feet deep and 5 feet away from a structure.
Oh wow.
So as long as you keep a perimeter on that area, as far as non-treatment zone,
Sure.
you can still treat that structure the way you would. It won't follow a plumbing line and pollute the plumbing lines or any of the well lines.
I noticed we have the concrete butting up to
Yes.
the foundation.
Yeah, this is pretty typical for
Right.
what we see a lot more of, more than we do the elevated decks.
So what's the treatment procedure on that?
You basically, what they do is they drill what they call a down hole, which is a 5/8 hole. It's usually done about right past the footer, so you're about 6 inches off. Those are done every 18 inches down your concrete side.
So you're making a drill hole.
That's correct, a 5/8 drill hole.
Do we
You're gonna
fill
drill
that one
straight
as well?
down. You've got to get that product underneath this slab to the soil.
Gotcha.
And you're trying to protect the footer of the structure. So yes, you have to drill that hole, treat the hole, and then you've got to patch that hole.
So we do fill all the
We
holes.
do fill all the holes, so
So-
nothing's left exposed.
Jeff, about a half an acre, maybe an acre away, they have a pond. Does that come into play?
That doesn't come into play with this product. Like I said, you know, they've got very there's strict rules on how it's applied. And then of course you have lakes and ponds. You want to make sure you're not too far from them and everything's pitching downhill. So you do want to look at that stuff, because the last thing you want to do is pollute a pond.
Sure.
And buy some fish,
Absolutely.
burn.
Absolutely.
So with that, I think this house would be fine. And you know, the well, I think, if I'm not mistaken,
out
is right
here.
over here.
Yeah.
Along with, they have what they call a cistern. Not a lot of people have cisterns
Sure.
these days. And if you do see them on a structure, a lot of times they're filled in, or they don't use them, or they may use them to wash a car. But sometimes you get them out here where they physically use it for drinking water. And then they've got the
And that's a
osmosis system inside.
That's
so
a safe distance
that's
away.
a safe distance to treat.
Right.
That's
Okay.
correct.
That's great.
So yeah, the well being right here where the white stub out is, and then the cistern being behind it, that's very sufficient for us to treat the entire structure.
Got one last question. Let's say that the mulch did bring in, or something was brought in, there's termites in the flower beds.
Yes.
Do we have to treat the whole structure?
You can actually treat portions of the flower bed as well. So you can outline that flower bed.
Right.
So if you wanted to do, let's say they were eating the timbers
Sure.
on the outside of it, you can definitely treat those.
Right.
And you know, I'd have to look at the label. I don't do a lot of that spot treatment, but
Right.
we do get into it where
Sure.
somebody's chopped down a tree and they find it out there in the tree at some point. So you can treat those areas as well.
Man, is there anything else that maybe I've missed? I know I didn't ask you about the reproductive, but you can hit us up on YouTube. We have all kinds of videos for termites.
We got a ton of videos.
Message us, hit that message button. We'll come out, we'll give you a free estimate. We'll assess the situation. As you can tell, termites, there's a lot to do with it, don't you think?
There's a bunch.
And we will give you, 2-3 sets of eyes if need be, if we think that there's something going on. Don't forget about the hidden damage. Remember the hidden damage?
That's right. There's some things you probably won't see. I mean, that's
right.
their goal, to stay hidden.
Right.
And they're going to do that in between wall voids and joints and things. So you want to make sure that you are aware that could happen.
Sure.
So
hit that message. Hit us. We'll come out and give you a free estimate, and we'll tell you what it's going to take to get that job done. Thanks a lot. It's another episode of Jeff and Kelly with A1 Able.
we're getting cups next time.
Yes, we are getting cups. You guys have a great week.
Thanks.